my goodness gracious. Oh, well, hello there. It's Gary Lucas. It's Tuesday, April 20th. And it's been a heck of the last couple of days. Really good news is that my GoFundMe campaign for my old dear friend Jason Candler has raised now over $24,000 in donations for his medical expenses, and I'm really overjoyed, as is his immediate family, his wife Lily and his 18-month-old toddler Jacob. And yes, the goal is to reach 50K as just a positive cushion, because after Jason gets out of rehab, he had a couple of strokes. He will face a long recovery period before he may be able to resume working again. And, you know, God knows, in this country and in this economy, but especially in this country, there's not a lot of a safety net there. And yeah, so it is with most freelancers, I being one of them, and most of my fellow musicians also. You know, I mean, there was a period of time when I was doing this in the early stages for a couple of years where I retained my day job. And I was a copywriter for CBS Records. Have slogan, will travel. But yeah, I mean, I made that leap in 1990 to full-time musician status, which was at one point very daunting. You know, I mean, this is probably the reason I never really went for it until at a ripe old age, where I didn't really give a toss for what happened. You know, I was just like, I'm just going to see what happens. Let's go for it. But immediately, you know, once I left that paycheck, I entered a world of harsh reality. I mean, I knew it was out there, but anyway, I staved it off for years with these day job assignments, and anyway, you know, it was rough. It had its ups and downs, but it built over many years, and so, you know, I wouldn't look back and lust after any sort of day job at all at this point. But I know that things as precarious as they are in a pandemic, certainly, and in this economy, you know, the world can turn upside down for you. The jaws of hell can open up and swallow you, and thus with Jason, but I'm doing my damnedest to try and stave that off for him, because he was is such a dear friend, and really I think it was the least I could do to organize it. And anyway, the word has gotten out, and he has a lot of friends all over the world, so donations have been coming in. I'm so elated and gratified, as is Lily. And even if you don't know him, but you know, you want to help a really deserving case, please donate to the GoFundMe I've set up for Jason. I did it on the timeline, up and down the timeline, and well, I should just shut up and start playing it. in Samarkand, how good who knows me understands. See how the water on the sand waves at me like little hands. Should I tell you what I did, or would you rather keep it in? Who shall we go and have a drink? I need a day or two to think. And at this point, Jason would come in with his beautiful alto sax solo on the song. That's a little bit of Lady of Shalott. And it was originally written in collaboration with a great, actually UK-born writer, though he lived most of his life over here, David Dalton. I'm sure I've mentioned him before, but anyway, he wrote some excellent biographies, especially a book about James Dean, the Mutant King, which I'd totally recommend. And he was a friend of my friend Steve Paul's, who introduced us. And Steve was the legendary impresario behind the Scene Club, where people like Jim Morrison, Jimi Hendrix, Janis Joplin used to jam. It was like right up off Times Square on 39th Street or 40th Street, I believe, in a basement of a tenement building. And I think it was cozy, to say the least, but it was very exclusive. Anyway, Steve, I go way back with Steve. He's no longer with us, sadly to say. But he came to me one day and he said, listen, my friend David Dalton has a great idea. And David was best friends with Marianne Faithfull, who of course I love. And the idea was, let's you and he write a song together. He's the lyricist, and you will come up with the music, and we'll pitch it to Marianne. So I got with David. I talked to him about this. Great guy. And I don't know, I really was inspired by his lyrics. They read beautifully on the page, as poetry, in fact. And we put a demo together. I put a demo together. And we got it to Marianne, and basically she just said, well, it's not really for me. Thanks a lot. So that was too bad. But when I was doing the last Gods and Monsters studio album, The Ordeal of Civility, I thought, well, I'm going to sing this. And it's on that record. I urge you to check it out. I even have, for the vinyl freaks out there, a beautiful vinyl edition of this. With production by Jerry Harrison from Talking Heads, who played all over it, and featuring my little all-star new wave punk supergroup lineup of Ernie Brooks on bass from the Modern Lovers, Billy Ficca from Television on the drums, Jason Candler on sax, and Joe Hendel on trombone. And it's a real good one. And we had many great guests on this album. Anyway, it's all available, folks, at my merch page. So I'm going to plug that for a while. Here I've been plugging away for Jason. I think I'll take a moment here to plug my stuff. Or else, you know, if you pass on by, you won't get high, as they say. So, here we go. also tell you about an excellent author I've recently discovered. I'm not sure, maybe I was tipped by a review in the New Yorker, maybe, or New York Review of Books, both journals that I read avidly. And that is an Argentinian female author, Mariana Enrique. And I read a short story of hers in the New Yorker a couple of years ago entitled Spiderweb. I immediately gravitated to it because one of my best-known songs, written in collaboration with some other people, became a song on Joan Osborne's Relish album under that title, Spiderweb. And so I'm always intrigued whenever there's this confluence of random occurrences, you know, whereby I'll investigate something just based on a name that keys into something in my mind. And so I had to read it, and it's really an excellent short story. You can find it online, I think, if you type into Google, Spiderweb, Mariana Enriquez, Enriquez. This is not her, but this is their sexy cover of this book. Things We Lost in the Fire, and it's a book of short stories. Spiderweb is one of them in there, but you can read it, I think, if you have a New Yorker subscription that's in their archive. Anyway, she writes basically ghost stories set in Argentina, and especially in a period, well, I mean, they're still suffering aplenty in that country. Yesterday in the Times, after midnight, I encountered an updated piece about how Argentina is faring economically, because they're about to come due with a huge number of notes that need to be paid, maybe, to the IMF for several bailouts. It's really a horrifying story. And I'm a big fan of Argentinian culture, and I have friends down there, though I personally have never visited there, but I would love to. And in any case, these stories are set in some of the worst periods of more or less virtual dictatorship there for a while. It's gone through, let's say, several transformations over the last 20 years with various heads of state coming and going. But the main takeaway from this article, with photographs, which are pretty gruesome, is that they're really just a step away from a sort of total collapse, which is not a good thought, especially not in this day and age. A country like that should be in such a precarious position. But anyway, back to this book. I'm about halfway through it. I read like a story a night before I go to bed. And as a fan of classic supernatural literature, and some horror films that deal with the supernatural, like The Innocents, based on Henry James's short story, or The Haunting. I love that. That's my favorite. She's right up there as a writer of really creepy descriptions of maybe supernatural encounters, maybe not. But she never reveals too much. She's really wonderfully poetic that way. You know, she doesn't really give away the plot, and you have to do a lot of rereading, as if, you know, it's some of these are like well-written murder mysteries, in a way. But I don't want to say too more, but check her out, because I'm really excited to now read other books of hers that have come out and translated into English. And this has really good translation by Megan McDonald. And check her out. And while you're at it, check out Astor Piazzolla's music. I posted Milonga del Angel last night, one of the most beautiful, melancholy pieces of music that I know. He was a master composer who studied with Nadia Boulanger in Paris, actually. He's very sophisticated harmonies in his writing. They're very cinematic, and they've been used in many Latin American films and a few European films. And then Grace Jones really took one of his themes, the Libre Tango, to the bank with her song I've seen that face before, which was featured in Au Femme Fatale, which had a connection because my friend Ellie Medeiros, who is down in Uruguay right now, her native country, had a lot to do with the direction of that film. And anyway, these are other stories I'll save for another time. But Piazzolla, definitely check his music out. My friend Kip Hanrahan is a great producer. I don't know what he's done the last few years, but I worked on several albums with him. Did one of the best recordings of Piazzolla and his ensemble for his own label, American Clave. It's called Tango 0 Hour. It's sensational. It would be in my top 10. Usually, I don't know, they always shift depending on, number one is always the incredible string band, 5,000 Spirits album, but I would say Tango 0 Hour could well take its place in my top 10 on a good day. So I'll play a little bit more for you, and thank you to Mark Green, who's been keeping the flame alive by feeding the PayPal kitty, which I would urge you all to do. I don't want to have to put this up behind a paywall, which I've been advised by some people to do, including Mark, to further monetize it. But I don't want to do that to my hardcore base or any new people who might, be directed to this site. But, as Don Pavlik said, a man's got to live, a man's got to eat, a man's got to have shoes to walk out on the street. Enough said. Angry. Okay, well that's it for now. Until Thursday. It's a beautiful day in New York. It's about 72 out there right now. It's the highest temperature it's been in many a month. And I think we need to take Lulu out for a walk, right, Caroline? Yeah.
Yes, please.
Yes, okay, you heard her. And, okay, until Tuesday, take care. I hope you're not, if you're in New York, afflicted with the same allergies as I am, because It's brutal with everything blossoming outside, but 3 Sudafeds and I'm fine. Okay, now. Be well. Love you guys. See you Thursday.